Let's bring in retired four-star General Jack Keane, former Chief of Staff of the Army, now chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. He is also a Fox News senior strategic analyst. General, always great to have you on the show. The president appears to be remaining optimistic about this. It looks like there are hurdles in the way. Rich Edson was just saying that the president says he thinks the two sides want to make a deal. What about you, General? Do you think there is an appetite on both sides to get this deal done?
Well, certainly, that's what makes this so difficult. I mean, largely there's always rhetoric to make a deal by both sides, but then when you really get down into the details of what that really means, sometimes the political will is not there. We're not at that point yet, but we do have a couple of indicators. One is that President Zelensky and his people want to make a peace deal. And he has made concessions, gave up security guarantees to do a 30-day ceasefire. Russia has never agreed to that. So that indicates that they likely want more concessions before they're willing to do something like that. I do know that the talks in London that just occurred yesterday from a source involved and participating in that was Ukraine, United Kingdom, Britain, and France, and obviously the United States. They appeared to be very productive in the fact that they got to understand all of Ukraine's concerns going forward. And obviously they'll adapt some of those concerns as they expand what the strategic framework is for a deal. Russia was given the same piece of paper that laid out a strategic framework deal between Russia and Ukraine. We've yet to get the feedback on that. I think likely Wickoff has had the meeting with Putin, and the president probably has some feedback about all of that. So there's meetings upcoming in about a week. I think it'll be tough. This is the hardest part of any deal, is when you get down to the details. Look we had a stalemate in Korea, and we were never able to get a complete peace deal. We're in an armistice for all of these years. So this is hard work in front, and it does reveal whether both sides are sincere about making a peace deal and willing to make some compromises to get it.
You talk about compromise, and I want to get your point on this, General, because I think it's important. The Wall Street Journal came out and said Trump's Ukraine ultimatum. It goes on to say, quoting, Mr. Trump can still salvage a deal in Ukraine, but the current final settlement offer looks like it would set up Mr. Putin to win the war now or later. The world's rogues will notice, and Mr. Trump's headaches will have only begun. I mean, it does appear that when you look at all these things, General, that Russia is getting the better part of this deal, but the alternative is what? A much, much longer war.
Yeah, well, we don't know what the details will be going forward, but I understand the Wall Street Journal, and I have similar concerns myself, certainly. But the reality is a couple things. The Ukrainians are going to have some security guarantees going forward. And that means the Europeans are willing to put a coalition of 20 nations that have agreed to put some forces in Ukraine to do peace enforcement if there is a ceasefire and a deal. It's impossible for Ukraine to go forward and agree to a deal without some security guarantees. They also want to establish a no-fly zone in Ukraine 24/7 with European fighter aircraft to enforce that. Putin, looking at that, likely will say no to that, because where Putin is, he wants concessions that make it easier for him to collapse Ukraine eventually and take the country over. He has never given up the aspiration to do that. And the fact that that is really where he is tells you that these negotiations are going to be very tough on Russia's side, because he wants Ukraine to be in a vulnerable position. So at some point at a later date, likely when President Trump leaves office, he would be able to, having rearmed and re-equipped for a number of years, and conduct a much larger invasion of Ukraine. That's the path he is on. Yeah. Whether we can get him off that path and make some concessions, we're going to find out.
In fact, the president was asked about concessions, asked what Russia has offered, and he said this.
What concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Pretty big concession. I've got only a few seconds left for you, General, but that's the whole thing. It doesn't seem like Russia's throwing a lot into the pot here.
No, I mean, they're still attacking, obviously. They're still attacking energy sectors. They're still attacking people sectors. They really haven't given up on trying to weaken the political will of Ukraine and destroy as much of their military as they possibly can. They refused to go to the 30-day ceasefire that Zelensky did. Yep. So the upcoming negotiations, as I said, are going to reveal a lot. I think if they reject it, I think the administration has got to get real tough with Russia, hit them hard in their central banks and their energy sector with crippling sanctions, and robustly arm Ukraine. And that will get Putin's attention more than anything else. Not so Ukraine can continue to fight, but so we can bring Russia to the negotiating table and get a deal.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to the next step the United States will have to take if Russia rejects the deal, which I suspect they will.
Yeah. General Jack Keane, great insight, analysis, as always, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.